Greetings to all you good peoples out there. This is Doc Ock coming to you live today. Oh, still trying to do it the right way. Let's see if I can get that pulled down like I like it, because I like it like that, and I like it like that. Right there. Perfect. All right. Now, so for today, we're continuing on with the story of Mekatilili Menza. Mekatilili Menza. And with that in mind, let's go ahead and do our proverb first today. The dog's bark is not might, but fright. The dog's bark is not might, but fright. I forgot to write down where that one comes from, so I'll have to check that one out later. But we got an extra for you today. We're not doing a poem. We're doing what we call an extra. And our extra for today is Beat the Bullet. Beat the Bullet. This is like a Muhammad Ali type story here. That one about him beating the light into the bed. Beat the Bullet by A.W. Eddins. In the trial of a Negro, capital N, for shooting at another, a lawyer examining one of the parties said, "You say that when the defendant pulled his gun, you began to run. How did you know that he was shooting at you?" Yeah. How did you know that he was shooting at you? Okay. How do you know he was shooting at you? I heard the gun fire, and I heard the bullet when it passed me. Are you absolutely sure that you heard the bullet pass you? Yes, I'm sure I heard that bullet pass me because I heard it twice. You say you heard the bullet twice? How could that be possible? Well, it was just like this. I heard the bullet when it passed me, and I heard it again when I passed it. So, like you said, he heard that bullet twice. Yep, because he heard it when it passed him, and he heard it when he passed it. Yeah, he was doing some running on that day. Okay, returning to the story now. Lili Menza, Woman Warrior. That's the title of this book. This part was one of the most interesting parts of the whole book for me, because the title of this chapter is Across Kenya on Foot. Across Kenya by foot, across Kenya on foot, same difference. Okay? When they captured Mekatilili, the British soldiers were surprised by her confidence and calm. "You are the leader of the Giriama, are you?" snarled one British soldier, who appeared to be the officer in charge, an African of Arc. "Well, I declare, ha, 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 ha." He was referring to the great heroine of French history who led her country to victory in battle. All the other soldiers roared with laughter. "We shall see how far you can make it, lady," the officer said contemptuously. "Take her away," he added, waving his hand toward Mekatilili. Wanje Wadorikola had also been captured at that time, and he and Mekatilili were thrown into a small, dark jail waiting for the time that they would be taken to a prison in Kisii, which is a town I've actually been to. That's far in the western part of Kenya, far inland on the other side of the country. So this ain't what I just said. It's over near the border between Kenya and Uganda, well out of the way, apparently, from the Giriama. Finally, they were transported by railroad far inland. They did not know where they were being taken. They were enclosed in a dark, damp goods train a freight train, in other words, with no windows. It was a frightening journey, cold and unpleasant. Many days later, the train stopped in Nakuru, and they were taken off and forced to walk for many more days. As they moved inland, it became colder, and there were higher hills than they had ever seen. The trees and flowers changed. Even the houses changed. They were used to rectangular houses, and now the houses were round. When they arrived in Kisii town, they found a cold, rainy, gray place. How she missed the coconut trees swaying in the warm ocean breeze. She ached for her people, her family, the elders, the children. Mekatilili felt like letting her heart just sink with the thought that this was to be her new home. But she did not let herself despair. Never mind, she thought to herself. I will find a way. These stupid British will not suspect anything from a woman, especially an African woman. Mekatilili and Wanje were sentenced to 5 years of hard labor in Kisii prison. 5 years? Not possible, Mekatilili said in her heart. The Giriama people needed her. As soon as she would have the chance, she was going to return to Giriamaland. They had been put into a hut in the prison yard. The British thought they would stay put for 5 years, but it was not to be. 5 months later, on the night of April 20th, 1914, Mekatilili and Wanje escaped from Kisii prison. It was the season of the long rains. The heavy rain on that night muffled the sounds as the two escapees climbed over the barbed wire fence and crept down to the banks of the Nyamage River. They splashed their way through the cold as fast as they could, and once safely on the other side, ran up the opposite bank of the river. They headed east, moving as fast as they could through the forest, up and down steep hills. The rain covered their tracks, but everything was muddy, and it was especially difficult to go up some of the hills. At the foot of each ridge, there was a river. They had a blanket that they shared, for it was very cold. They kept running through the night. They wanted to get as far away as possible under cover of darkness and pouring rain before anyone noticed their absence. As dawn approached, it was no longer raining, but they were too scared and too cold to stop. They just kept moving quietly and quickly through the forest. Finally, sometime just after midday, they found a safe, dry place to rest. They fell down together in a clump of thick bushes and slept for a few hours. When they woke, the sun was low in the western sky. They quickly got up. They must have noticed our disappearance by now, whispered Mekatilili. No doubt, replied Wanje. The day is almost gone. If they suspect we've gone this far. Somehow, I don't think they would bother coming after us. They probably think we have been eaten by hyenas. Now that is a danger. Chuckled Mekatilili. She was right. The British did not bother going after them. They did not think that anyone would ever survive such conditions, especially an elderly couple, weak from hunger. Mekatilili and Wanje set off towards the east, towards the darkness of oncoming night. As they walked through the night, they stumbled over rocks and roots of trees. Sometimes they heard animals and even came across large black shapes in front of them that quickly disappeared into the night. At one point, they spotted a leopard and quickly moved off in the opposite direction. It was very cold. The blanket was thin, and there was only one. They had to keep moving just to keep warm. They were hungry, but the cold and the hunger just kept them going as they knew their beloved home, warm and plentiful, lay ahead of them. They moved through difficult, dense forests, and after some time, they came across a footpath, which seemed to be heading roughly in the right direction. It was going toward the southeast, and they followed it. It led them right into a large, well-kept homestead with 6 round houses and many children. They froze in their tracks, not knowing what to do. The woman there had already spotted them. They were about to turn back when the woman beckoned to them. The women began to call to them, using hand gestures and talking among themselves, pointing to the strangers, because they probably spoke 2 different languages. Mekatilili and Wanje just stood there, not knowing what to do. They could not understand what the women were saying, as I said. Very soon, the women realized that their visitors did not speak their language. They took Mekatilili gently by the arm and led her to a stool. Wanje followed at a distance. Another woman brought him a stool. He felt shy among all these women and sat down a little behind Mekatilili. Soon, the women brought some porridge for them in gourds, again with smiles and strange words. Mekatilili realized with relief that they had been welcomed into the homestead. In the morning, a neighbor came to the homestead. He spoke Kiswahili and could act as an interpreter. Mekatilili had, of course, long been familiar with the language, as it was the language her father used in trading with Arabs and Indians in the coastal towns. In Kisii prison, Kiswahili was everyone's language. Through this man, Mekatilili and Wanje were able to talk about their situation with their host family. They explained that they had just escaped from the British prison in Kisii and described the terrible things they had seen. "We have to fight for freedom. The British must be forced out of the country," said Mekatilili with passion. The people seated around looked at her. They were startled. It was unusual to hear a woman speaking with such confidence. Mekatilili and Wanje talked and laughed with their hosts until sundown. They then took leave of the good people. Some of the women escorted them to a footpath that would lead them east and also be safe. As they said goodbye, the women handed Mekatilili a basket of ugali and dried meat to keep them going on their journey. They walked for days and days, sometimes sleeping in a forest or under the shadow of large rocks, sometimes accepting the hospitality of friendly villagers. They ate fruits from trees as they went, and this kept them going. And when the day came when Mekatilili spotted the first baobab tree on the horizon, her heart leaped for joy. This was indeed a sign that they were traveling in the right direction. "Wanje, look," she exclaimed, "our first baobab tree. I feel as if I were almost home." The baobab is a sacred tree, and it only grows in the eastern part of Kenya, although it does grow in other parts of Africa. Seeing a baobab tree was reassurance that they were going in the right direction and getting closer to Giriamaland. There were more and more baobab trees. There were many wild pigs and zebras and wildebeest, and they often came across dangerous rhinoceros and elephants on the vast plains, which stretched out in all directions. After walking for over 3 months, Mekatilili and Wanje wa Mwadorikola once again set foot in Giriamaland. By then, it was July. "Wanje, we're home," cried Mekatilili under her breath, grasping his elbow in excitement. So they started in April. They didn't get home till July. So April, May, June, July, almost 4 months. They were thin and weak. Word spread swiftly that Mekatilili and Wanje were back. They quickly moved through familiar territory to the homes of friends and family. Everyone rejoiced to see them back, gave them food, and reported what had been going on in their absence. But there was no time to celebrate. They had been gone for about 8 months. During that time, the British had continued to harass the Giriama, still trying to throw them off their land, still trying to collect taxes and force them into slave labor. But they had not yet given up. "But they will give up," said Mekatilili to herself. They had not given up, meaning the British. "But they will give up," said Mekatilili to herself. Okay, and we'll carry on with the next chapter tomorrow, which is the Giriama Uprising. I don't know if that's the last chapter, if there's one more. Nope, this is the last chapter. So we'll do the last chapter tomorrow, the Giriama Uprising. Okay. Meanwhile, we got to go. Our time is definitely up. We only have about a minute left. But in that time, I just like to say it's been grand being with everybody here. And I enjoy my time spent with you every day at noon and 9. And I just like to say I still am looking for more thumbs up, more subscriptions to our YouTube channel, as well as more likes and more shares on Facebook. Okay, that's all we're asking right now. It doesn't sound like a lot to me. It sounds like it's something really simple, something you can do. Just hit that share button and share it with a friend, a family member, a group, anybody you like. All right. So we appreciate all your support and your attention, and we'll see you back here tonight at 9. This is Doc Ock at 9, signing off. Peace out, without a doubt.